Um, so I did not have any New Year's resolutions until yesterday. I was watching a program and it made me so depressed that I have decided that for 2018, I will not be watching any depressing material. I normally like if I watch a documentary or a TV show, for some reason I seem to gravitate towards like serious things. And I'm not even like this intense person to where I feel like that would be like right up my wheelhouse. But like I watched the documentary about it's actually called The Bridge and it's talking about like suicide, but it's talking about like people jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge. I've watched videos or I watched documentaries on like assisted suicide. Like these things are just not fun topics and I don't know why I gravitate towards them, but yet here we are. And the topics were interesting and they still are, but it didn't until yesterday. I didn't feel like some type of way about it. So this video is kind of like a revelation slash review. So yesterday, I ended up binge watching a show on Lifetime, or it's like a docu series called Time of Death. Right then and there, I probably should have stopped just based on the title. However, I just feel like the topic is very interesting to me. So, the subject is about it's a documentary that follows people who are terminally ill, um, and it follows them for like the last days, weeks of their life. So it kind of talks about they are talking about what what is affecting them, like what's their illness and how they feel about it, and kind of like goes from there. And it's 6 episodes, and of course with each episode someone tells their story and someone also passes. But in all of those episodes, there's one, I guess, like main story. I mean, this particular person shows up in each, like 5 of the 6 um, episodes, and her story is told through those 5 episodes right up until her death. And the 6th episode is her family's, her children, and how they're dealing with it. But she's the overall, I guess, the main character, if you will. But I was watching this yesterday, and I was only meaning to watch one episode, and I ended up watching all 6, and I it just brought up so many emotions that I didn't think that I was going to have. It's a good show. I think it's like 4 or 5 years old by this point. It came out in 2013. And it's a very interesting subject, and it's addressing death. And I read a review about this show. I think in society we're so, I think death in society goes 2 ways. Either we trivialize it or we just don't talk about it. And this series very much, I mean, it's in some of the episodes you actually see like the moments before someone passes. So it's very in your face. It's very, you have to, like, if you're watching, it makes you uncomfortable. It makes a lot of people uncomfortable because everyone imagines that we're all going to die. And um no one likes to think about their own mortality. And so yesterday I was watching this, and there were two stories that got me. One, it was about a couple that was married for like 50 something years, and the wife had pancreatic cancer. And she talked about their life, her life with her husband and her kids, and she was very accepting of her fate. And when she passes, and you just feel like they interview the husband afterwards, and he just, I don't know if to say it, he looks kind of like bewildered. And that really hit home for me as a married woman. That you spend all your time with this one person, you have a life, you have a home together, and then they're not there. And I just felt like I don't even know how. I don't know. I think I've heard that if like one person passes, like if a husband or wife passes, shortly after that their spouse will pass. And I feel like that kind of makes sense to me in a way, because if you have your soulmate and they're not there and your whole life was them and you've built this life with this person, it's just kind of like, I don't want to say that like they will themselves to die, but I just feel like they kind of just don't feel like they want to be on this plane of existence anymore without them. Like there's just something to me, like it's not so crazy to me that someone would pass after their spouse is passed. So there was that story. And then the story I think that really like broke me for the day. I was like, I can't watch this anymore, and yet I did. I finished the series. The fifth episode, there was a 19-year-old girl, terminal skin cancer, and in her like final moments, like, you know, she's got labored breathing, she's pale, she's just unconscious. Her family is like praying over her, and her mom and her dad, specifically her mom and her dad, are like praying over her, and they're trying to comfort her. And I like fell apart because, and I was thinking like, had I watched this a year ago when my daughter was, you know, in my womb and I didn't know her and I didn't know anything about her, I just don't feel like I would have had that same reaction. And now that I'm like a mom and like my baby is still little, but I just cannot imagine being a parent and losing a child now that I'm a mom now. And so like I was watching this, and like my husband comes in from work and he's like, "What are you watching?" And he starts watching, and like 10 minutes in he starts bawling. Like my husband never cries, and he's watching this and he's crying his eyes out. We're both like crying our eyes out. And again, he's not a crier, but I think there's just some, it's not a thing. I know there is some shift in you when you have a child. And as cliched as that is, there is truth to it, because I watch depressing ass things all the time, and I'm like, that's really sad, and I may get misty eyed, but I don't feel like I I don't think I would have cried as hard as I did yesterday. I think it's a very good show, and it does deal with death in a very dignified way. And there's, it shows how people deal with, not just so much the people, but it shows also like how their families deal with death. And I think you need to see that. But I just remember feeling like, I don't want to watch this again. Like some things that, even though it's morbid as it is, I can watch over and over again. I'm not a morbid person, I promise, but some topics are fascinating to me. This is one show that I felt like sad afterwards, and it made me like, I don't want to watch it. And that's a big deal for me, because I would have watched it again probably just to like, just see what I missed in the documentary. But I don't know, it just made me, for the first time, I think it was one of those things, I think it made me think about my own mortality. I think we always say like, tomorrow's not promised to you. And I think everyone says that in a very like abstract way, but I mean, really, tomorrow is not promised. And it just makes me, it is scary to think about that today may be my last day, and I may not get to see my daughter grow up. I think that was one of the thoughts that I was thinking, like, I don't want to get sick and not see my daughter grow. I don't want to get sick and like see my husband be devastated at my death. Like, I don't want to, I would be dead, but it's just hard to think about. So that was the first time I think I actually like really felt like the weight of like my own mortality. And it is uncomfortable. Like, it's uncomfortable. So no, it's a very good show. It's not something you would just pop in. It's not something that I would recommend just like sitting down. I just did it because, my daughter was sleeping on top of me, and I just was tired of watching other programs. So I was like, I'll just pop this in. It's definitely, I think you have to be in the right mood for it. You have to be in the right mind frame for it, because it's not easy to watch. And it's fascinating, and that's probably why I couldn't turn it off, but it is super fucking depressing. So it just made me like hug my daughter a little tighter, and hug my husband closer, and just be thankful for what that God gave me today, and hopefully God gives me tomorrow and the next couple of days and weeks. But yeah, like I said, you have to be in the right, it's not something I recommend it, but again, you have to be in the right mind frame for it, because it's not easy. I can't say that enough. But yeah, no more depressing things. It's too early in the year. I After that, I just was like, this is too intense. I'm super depressed. I think I'm just gonna watch like Dave Chappelle's specials on Netflix, both of them, and they're both hilarious, and they made me feel a little bit better. But I feel like that show has been lurking in the back of my mind for the last couple of days. So maybe I just need to distance myself from it for a while. But yeah, it is uncomfortable to think about your own death.